I've been asked to do this. Keep going. She did it. Rosaleen said she wanted a dramatic entrance. I didn't know you did that literally. You're wrecking the gaff. Hello, thank you all so much. Let me have a look at, yes, there's loads of you and you're all lovely. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm very, very happy to be here. My name is Chandrika Narayanan Mohan. I am a writer based in Ireland, and today I am very excited to talk to Dr. Rosaleen McDonagh about her lovely book, Unsettled, a brilliant, brilliant collection of essays published by Skene Press in September last year, so which feels recent, but it's not as recent as it actually is. So before we start, I'm gonna read out your bio, which Rosaleen does not like me doing, to introduce Rosaleen to all of you. So, Rosaleen McDonagh is a playwright, performer, columnist for the Irish Times, and a member of the Aistana. Her plays include The Baby Doll Project, She's Not Mine, Rings, The Prettiest Proud Boy, and Mainstream. Her most recent commissions were Walls and Windows for the Abbey Theatre and Contentious Spaces for the Project Arts Centre. Rosaleen holds a BA, 2 MPhils from Trinity, and a PhD from Northumbria University. Not much there, just a few degrees here and there. She is a board member of Pavy Point Traveller and Roma Centre and was appointed a Human Rights Commissioner in June 2020. Unsettled is her first book. Welcome, Rosaleen. It's so lovely to have you here. So, sorry, I got my wee timer there. Rosaleen, how are you?
I'm very nervous.
Okay, we don't have to be nervous, because everyone there's sound, and I certainly am. So.
Go easy on me.
Go easy on you. Well, go easy on me. So this is not the first time we've done a panel together, and I had my amazing prepared script, and then Rosaleen went totally rogue, and I had to bin it, and then we had a brilliant conversation. So I think we'll probably just do that again, shall we? But sure, look, we'll start off with talking about Unsettled. First of all, congratulations for officially launching it. So like many authors that launch books during the pandemic, we didn't get to celebrate in person. So very recently we were at Molly, where we had the Skene Press launch for Unsettled. You're interviewed by Anne Enright, and we were surrounded by lovely people, and it was just so great to celebrate this brilliant achievement in person.
And my family.
And your family were there, and I got to meet them, and they're wonderful. So congratulations. How was that?
That was nerve-wracking. It was I wasn't sure I wanted to do it because a week or so before I had buried one of my best friends. So I was trying to hold it together. But Miss Enright is wonderful. You know, she was really challenging in a gentle way. And she always had that underlying feminist angle. And that was really helpful.
Well, underlying and overt feminist anger is always helpful.
No, angle!
Angle? Oh, I thought you said anger. Well, that
Well,
too.
that too, but it's funny, I've learned so many journalists have said it's a very angry book. And I think anger has its place in all of us, probably in a private place. But I think women's anger, Irish women's anger, ethnic minority anger, and disability anger, we've all been told actually it might be better if you use anger rather than anger.
Well, the thing is that I would not have read your book as an angry book. It is a complex book. It is very funny. It's full of love. It's a complex, really rich book. It's full of gentleness as well. So just to introduce to anyone who hasn't read it, it's a series of stories about you, your life, and really about sort of humanity. And for me, at least, I think the mark of a really brilliant nonfiction storyteller is the way that all the different stories like strike a tuning fork with the reader. And for example, I went into it thinking I would resonate with certain chapters, and I actually really resonated with loads of the others as well, because you tap into so much about human love and relationships and adversity. So, I mean, of course there's always going to be anger and angle simmering through it, but for me it was a complex book. And tell me how you chose those stories, actually.
Well, it started out as a selection of short stories, no autobiography. And then the more I worked with teens, the more they encouraged me and allowed me to explore bits of my own life. And also, I suppose, if I don't do it now, when will I? And yeah, the more I edited, the more I realized this is me. I'm Bella. Bella is Rosaleen. Bella is my alter ego. And let's just be honest.
Yeah, and it comes across beautifully, and the selection of stories each one is so different from each other, have such different perspectives, and so much of...
Hold on.
Okay, go on.
Is there too much sex?
No! Rosaleen! I will always say there's never enough sex, frankly. So that's where you let me down, personally, Rosaleen. There's not enough writing in Unsettled, which is not the review you thought you'd get.
Well, I was thinking then, again with Grania and Fionnuala, two wonderful women from Sweden Press. I was saying, I don't know, and I'm a traveller, and I'm not married, and Fionnuala, who was editing, just said, you're a living, breathing woman. Do it.
Well, fair play to Fionnuala and Grania, lovely people from Skeen Press, published loads of just brilliant, brilliant books. Yeah, and I'm very glad that was in there, because it's just a story. And well, one of the questions I was going to ask you is that it's about relationships. Each one of your beautiful chapters is so much about relationships and the full spectrum of what that encompasses, like platonic, romantic, sort of activist relationships, and sometimes all those things in one, and sexual relationships, sometimes they're all one person. And how is it to write about those relationships, actually, especially when all these people are very real people to you?
I suppose we all reflect on our friendships, our relationships, and our relationships with ourselves, and our relationship with our work, and with what's on the page. And I suppose there were two things I wanted to do. Once Fionnuala kind of nudged me, that was, as disabled women, we don't talk about our intimate lives. We're never given a platform, and therefore we don't think it's interesting or edgy or meaningful. I was really glad that Unsettled allowed me to do that, and the way that lots of younger disabled women have wrote to me and very emotional, saying, we see ourselves. Yeah, and that was very nice. But also as traveller women, there was a fine balance between purient, exotic. I didn't want to go down there. And there was also something liberation and saying, tradition is fine if you're a male, if you're a hetero, if the rules suit you. And that's all very well if you can live your life defined by a penis. I can't. I can't. So it was nice to be able to write as a traveling woman in a very unconventional way, and to regard my life and the lives of other traveling women who have taken brave and bold journeys, and to try and build new traditions and not being defined by patriarchy. And that was so far. I mean, it's always a bit tricky. You know what I'm talking about. There's a fine line. But I think that Unsettled allowed me to demonstrate and articulate that we have, despite racism or ableism, we have rich, interesting, and really important relationships with all sorts of people.
And we're so lucky that we got to read something like that.
I don't know.
But you know, it's what you're saying as well. It's not like these experiences didn't exist. It's just that they're not in the mainstream, to take the name of one of the plays you've written. But it's just that people aren't reading them, they aren't hearing them, or they're not hearing them outside their own communities. You know, we might be talking to our own communities about it, but it's about sharing those stories and finding that your story relates to people from all sorts of different backgrounds. I mean, for example, I didn't expect so much to resonate between Asian culture and traveler culture. I kind of copped a bit, like throughout, when I was reading the first few chapters, it kept feeling really familiar in a few different ways. One is because I grew up with a lot of Sikh women in school, so all about the hair and the real literal, you know, the weight of the importance of hair. And I'm also South Indian, so oiling of hair is just a big part of South Indian culture. But then you have the chapter that was about a Pakistani family that lived next to your family. And I just went, oh, there it is. Like, you've now addressed exactly. I was just like, this is just so familiar. And I love that chapter because it just showed how two families from different cultures who may not know each other's cultures particularly exist or that they might relate to, when physically thrown together on either side of a fence, is when you realize that you have loads in common. And in that chapter, the most beautiful part for me is the two mothers talking over the fence late into the early morning about their lives, and then pretending that they kind of have to not like each other to fit into societal norms. So I mean, for me at least, definitely just the way that it relates to all sorts of different people.
That's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. You can't thank me for that. But like, tell me what it's been like, because it came out in September. Have you found lots of people coming to you with stories like this about how people you didn't expect to relate to it might relate?
No, I suppose there's been lots of things. I met lots of people, and some people didn't like the book, and some people thought, you're too big for your boots, or you're too short for your heels. No.
Yeah, but your heels and your boots are very nice, Rosaleen.
Anyway, my point is, Enrique, 5 years ago in Ireland, we were all talking about gender stuff. Remember?
Yeah.
Waking the feminists and all that. And I suppose at the moment, everywhere I look, there's a diverse program with funding for diverse people. And we've always been here, but it's lovely to see and very important to have our work validated elevated and respected. And I think it's really important that diversity is not just about front of house. It's not just about the writer, it's about the publisher, it's about the lighting technician and the sound engineer, you know?
Yeah.
And it's about this, you know, it's about, we know stuff without even saying it.
Well, yeah, because I mean, sure, I have my own opinions on a lot of the diversity policies and initiatives myself, and too much for this stage at the moment, but it's kind of exactly what you're saying. There's a lot of programs and initiatives, but it's when the power structures are changed and the decision makers are different, and that's when I have found that we meet more barriers, because actually internally people don't necessarily want to change how their companies work, but they'd love to put together a program. So I'm finding that to be bittersweet, because it's brilliant, but there's a lot of change that needs to still be done.
And also in terms of panels and assessments and adjudication, all through my career, as with yours, I don't think I've ever had a traveller or I've ever been on a panel to judge a traveller's application. Yes, it's all quite settled people who will decide if my work has merit. And within that decision process, there's always unconscious bias, or maybe not so unconscious, but there's always, you're only allowed one diverse person. You know, oh, we did it for an Indian last year, now we'll do it for a traveller. Maybe next year we might do it for a deaf woman or a disabled woman. But it's also incremental and so individualistic rather than collective, and rather than a spirit of collaboration. It's almost like a competition.
Yeah, I felt that a few times, and it's awkward, isn't it, to be in those situations?
Well, it's like, who do we have? A brown face or a traveller?
Yeah.
You know, it's all that kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, when you're on the inside, like us, you're compromised, because if you say anything, they won't have you back. Or they won't, you know, they'll say, oh no, we had her last year. No. And we found another little traveller who's actually more pleasant and won't go around making activities.
Well, no, the phrase I always like using is, you know, who's the brown artist du jour that's going to be like, and I was like, oh my God, is it me right now? How exciting. Then I was like, okay, well, I can't wait to see who the next one is who will take over from me, because, you know, we pass our little crown on, and I love it, but also it's like, you know, we can just exist together, right? Like, we can just be part of...
There can be more than one.
There can be more than one. We don't have to battle it out, because you will win.
No, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. And like, I think that's what's interesting, well, particularly because you're published by Skeen, but it's the only sort of, I guess, Arts Council funded company that in literature where the decision makers are from different backgrounds as well. Nidhi Zak, a brilliant poet, is one of the co-editors of Skeen, and I work with them, and they have another Indian. I was like, there are more Indians than Irish people in here. I love it.
Yeah, but I also think Grania and Fionnuala are settled Irish, but Grania worked with traveller women for over 20 years.
Yeah.
She knew the risk with that book, both publicly and also personally. And I don't think I would have gotten a publisher that would have been interested in the way I write, but also that would have understood it's tricky, you know, and that problems, we have a right to say no. We have a right to say, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, well, tell me more about that, because it's addressed a few times in the book as well, just the moments of guilt or discomfort or like knowing that what you're saying might not be received well. Like, how did you work through that while you wrote the book?
Well, on a sincere level, I did not want to hurt or compromise my family. And that was a given. From the first page, I had said, whatever I do with this book, they cannot be tarnished in any way by my behavior. Secondly, we don't need to overshare. You know, as writers, we don't need to spoon feed our audience. I knew straight away my audience would be predominantly women. Women are very bright. They get stuff even when it's not on the page. You know, and there was also something about leaving stuff for maybe another book or another time in my life.
So, is there more that that actually didn't make it in here that you might work with again?
Yeah. But I think I would like consider writing. And also, don't forget there's a craft in how you, every sentence matters, but it's also a metaphor for the previous sentence and the one that's coming ahead. So I haven't learned the craft of writing about what I need to write about.
And like, speaking of craft, like you've been a playwright for a long time, and you've worked very hard at that. And then, so this is your first novel. So did that?
It's not a novel.
Well, it's. I'm going to call it a novel.
No,
Your collection of essays. Do you prefer? Okay.
That's more woke.
Your memoir. Do you want me to call it a memoir? No. I know you don't. Well, but like, because of the way you've honed your craft in playwriting, did that inform the way you wrote these essays, or was it just a totally different way of thinking, like a total breakaway from what you're used to, which is, fiction, really? You might pull parts of yourself for those plays, but when you're writing something that's so close to home in a different style.
Well, for me, it was about writing everything as if it was a monologue.
Okay.
And then editing and reshaping and sometimes, I mean, every writer will tell you this, sometimes it's here, it's just ready to come out of you. And I remember sort of getting out of my wheelchair and sitting on the floor and having a black marker and trying to draw different parts of an essay and journey that. And other times I was in my chair and all ready to go. So it depends on what the nature of the essay is. It depends on how you auto-fiction. And what you do in that, it also depends on energy, emotional energy and intellectual capacity and rigor. Some days I have it, but you know what, Enrique, other days I don't.
Well, I mean, I would hope that you weren't a complete machine about it, because that would be terrifying. But no, that's so interesting to hear how those things fed into each other, and I love hearing that, because I haven't heard you say it before, sort of the visual way that you worked through the essays. I think that's really fascinating. But come here, I want to ask you a very specific question about the book, and it's about pride, because it comes up through your essays in a few different ways, like sort of pride in a way that, you can tell that you're proud of your work, you're proud of your capability through it, but there's also pride in terms of the marriage referendum, and when you talk about sort of queer activism and all the places where activism collide, the intersectionality of activism, but also that discomfort of being pushed into activism and pride as well. It's sort of dealt with in really complicated ways in your book. I'd love you to talk about that a wee bit.
Am I allowed to be really honest?
Yes? Yes.
I think when we internalize pain, and for me that pain was racism, and it destroys some part of you, and some part of you that can never be fixed. And when I talk about racism, I'm not talking about access into a pub, or I'm talking about 3 or 4 generations of traveler women being hurt. And I went to demos. I got involved because of the crack and because you never knew who you were going to meet there. And they always needed numbers. I was never much use on the front line. I was always a backroom kind of gal. And that served me well in terms of I was interested in friendships, relationships, and how certain arching issues in our lives affect those friendships. And for over 30 years, my 2 best female friends are both gay women, Susie and Catherine. And those 2 would have radicalized me in terms of liberation and sexual identity and owning my own sexual comfort and fear and all that. But my point was, or is, I think, the activism in my time was always about the boys, which meant women like me went under the radar, and you challenged and you changed things, not always with a placard or a microphone, but you actually did stuff. You showed up and you demanded your way in and you wouldn't move, or you'd say, arrest me. Now, I was always the woman behind the woman who would do that. Do you know what
How convenient, Rosaleen.
No, but do you know what I'm saying? I was never up front, and I could never be trusted in a leadership role. Or I'd be there and I'd be chatting and keeping bad company, but not actually listening to what the charge was.
Yeah.
Does that answer?
Answers a fair bit. I mean, it is interesting, like being part of these activist movements, being a little bit sidelined by them sometimes, that balance between showing up for someone else during their crisis and, you know, the time that you're talking about where AIDS was the crisis and they were literally dying. So obviously they needed support in a huge way. But as time, you know, goes on, the causes, you know, there are more of them, they change, they evolve, they get complex, and suddenly, you know, traveler rights come up, and then there's the, you know, ethnicity celebrations, the conversation changes. You might be, well, you are at the forefront of so many things now, as a board member of Pavey Point, for example.
But that's my home.
Exactly.
I mean, they like, who else would employ someone like me? Who else would have nurtured and grew me into a feminist other than Ronnie Fay? You know, who else would have raised my consciousness, not just about traveller rights, but about social and political solidarity with other groups. But I do think, regardless of all the activism and whatever else, I really believe friendship is at the heart of what we do. And all the polemics and all the, you know, like, I'm not going to turn up if I don't know anyone, or if I know they're not going to respect me as a traveller woman, or a woman with impairment. But I will turn up if I know that the hand of friendship will meet me halfway.
And I think you tap into that bit in the book talking about sort of white feminism and feminism that isn't intersectional, but also kind of touches upon what you were talking about earlier when it comes to diversity and all these initiatives. It's kind of that, isn't it? If friendship isn't at the heart of those decisions, then you're still othering the other group. You're still seeing them a little bit as lesser or at arm's length, not as equals.
I think it's very interesting at the moment. For me, white, Western, non-disabled feminism has almost stood still because reproductive rights and economic parity of esteem, they haven't really shouted it out. You know, they haven't.
Oh, really? No.
You know, they kind of, and I think it's, I mean, Ukraine at the moment, and women being used as weapons of war, you know, our wombs, their wombs. I think as a young one, I thought one day I'll meet someone and she will give me the book, the map of feminist thought. Nobody ever told me that it was all encompassing, that it was always evolving, and that traveller feminism or disabled feminism, we have resilience, we have brilliance. Also, we've been there. We've done our own thing. We've challenged our own men. Maybe we haven't written academic treatises about it, or we're not in the universities teaching gender studies, we've been around, we've been making our own feminism for a long, long time, Shamika, and you know what I'm talking about. Nothing that we ever received was easy. And the real difficult thing at the moment around diversity and women is there's still only one voice, one brown face. You know, and that's kind of not feminism, that's tokenism.
Yeah.
Oh God, that was too heavy.
It was perfect. I was like, I kind of wish we could just end it on that because it's perfect, but there's more time. That was, okay.
No, that was too heavy.
No, it wasn't. It's never too heavy. Never too much sex, never too heavy, Rosaleen. Anytime you ever ask, is it too much, I'm not even going to let you finish the sentence. Just be like, no.
Can I tell you something about this woman?
Oh, God.
Please indulge me for a moment. So we're at this
Oh, God.
reception,
Yeah.
aren't we?
Yes.
I don't know Shinrika very well. And there's loads of people, and somebody won an award. 2 men.
I really don't remember.
I remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to compromise it. But anyway, they won.
I'm compromisable, by all means, please.
They won. And afterwards there was a few drinks. And everyone is doing their networking thing. And I'm not able to network because my speech, and it takes too much effort to keep on repeating. So I tend to normally kind of tell myself, go in the corner and be an installation. Let them look, but don't talk. Anyway, that was my role for today, and Shinrika wandered over to me. And we don't know each other very well. And she's standing beside me, very sheepishly. I'm thinking, what does this woman want? And then she says, I have 2 bottles of Prosecco. Can I just slip them into your bag? And I'm saying, do you know I'm a traveler? Do you know if anything goes missing, it'll be me that they'll look at? And she said, oh, no. No, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he said, just let me open your bag. And I'm like, but you don't even know me. And he said, yeah, I know you.
I didn't know you, though, did I?
No.
From Fishamble. I must have. I don't put balls in random strangers' bags.
Well, you did with me, lady. Lady.
I did know you were going to wheel that one out tonight. I knew you would.
Well, I thought I was outrageous.
I swear, you know, the worst part is I'm starting to wonder if that was me, because I have no recollection of this at all. You sure?
Don't lie.
Oh, no.
Don't lie.
I thought it was a different event. Okay, well, we'll figure this one out. I thought it was at a Fishamble event.
It was.
Wait, I didn't steal the Prosecco. It's our Prosecco.
Well, that's like stealing from me.
Okay. I was just like, I didn't steal from, no. I owned that Prosecco, technically. I was a fundraiser, so I got the sponsorship, so it was my Prosecco.
No.
But yes, I did put it in your bag because it was funny.
Yeah, but you allowed me to carry the guilt for 2 years.
No, I did. Well, also.
For 2 years.
Well, it wasn't just me, so.
But you were the one that put it over my line.
Well, now this is public and everyone knows about it.
So, word of warning. Do not let this woman near your bag.
Well, in fairness, you'll end up with something in it rather than taken from it. So I think everyone's going to be standing next to me at events is what's actually going to happen, Rosaleen. Come here. Let us very swiftly change the subject before you talk about anything everything else about me. I have to ask a very boring literary question now. Come here. What's next? Besides outing me in public as a Prosecco gifter, what is next for you? I know you were saying that when you started the book, you were intending to write short stories. Is that on the cards next? What else have you got after this wonderful book?
Do you want the real answer or do you want the real answer?
Both columns. Give me what you got.
Well, yes, there will be an attempt at another book, but there's also it's only April, and I buried 3 people this year. There's something about I need to kind of take time out
Yeah.
and reflect on the lives that I've lost, and you know what, Rebecca, I'm very tired. I mean, I know as disabled people, we're not allowed to say you're tired. You know, no, I am tired, and I miss very much theatre work.
Yeah.
And that's my own true love. And I feel this sort of thing, I mean non-monogamous, and do my relationship with theatre. I want to get back, and it's a very different way of working.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, what are you doing? You know, I mean, it's a very hard question
Yeah.
to respond. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in spring. There's a war on. You know, let's see where we are in a little while.
I'm very glad that you gave me a much more interesting answer to my standard boring panel question. So I'm delighted. No, but it's important, and I'm glad you brought it up because a lot of the time we do as career artists say like, oh yes, and this is what I've got coming up, and it's a bit of promo, but it's important to just acknowledge
Well, a lot of it is bullshit.
Yeah, it is.
And you're going to say...
We fill out Arts Council applications. We're very good at bullshit.
No, but it's not even that. It's about being able to say, actually, I'm dying to have a day in bed. I'm dying to watch. You know what I'm really dying for? This is terrible.
Go on.
I'm dying for the next series of The Crown.
I love that got the biggest clap, yes. I haven't seen The Crown, but I can very much...
Well, I know it's colonialist, I know it's racist, I know it's sexist, I know all that.
Girl, I watch Bridgerton. I cannot say anything. Like, we're on the same level. Yours is frankly more intellectual than mine.
I mean,
so.
did you watch the second series?
Of Bridgerton? Yes, in like one day.
And?
I love the dresses. And I suspend my disbelief for everything else. But I did absolutely love that an Indian woman was the love interest. And not only an Indian woman, but as a South Indian, a dark-skinned Indian woman is a very particular thing that is not seen much in Indian entertainment, first of all, because there's so much colorism in Indian media. So, I mean, for me, I loved that, and I loved her because she's in lots of shows. She's in Sex Education and stuff. But yeah, I suspended my disbelief and my criticism. I kind of turn it on and off like a switch, to be honest, because sometimes you have to just be entertained and enjoy art. And of course you can be critical of things, but you know, we can hold multiple things in our heads at the same time. And sometimes you just, you know.
I am a vegetarian. but I did want a bit more me. I thought you hooked me on the first series,
I know!
but the second series really didn't.
There was more sex in Unsettled than there was in season 2 of Bridgerton. Not even kidding, Rosaleen. So I think you should... Come on!
This is not a thing. Why do you bring everything back?
Because this is a panel about Unsettled, Rosaleen.
Yeah, but we're
I know what you mean, yeah.
We're in court.
We are in court.
We're feminists.
Yeah.
We're minority ethnic women. We're not really supposed to be doing toilet interviews.
Yeah, we're having fun.
Anyway, Bridgerton didn't really work for me.
That's okay.
But I did love the clothes
Yeah.
and the hair.
Yeah.
The hair. And I loved, you know what I really loved?
Go on.
The white men were all butlers.
That is so true. I know. That's, Dr. Rosaleen, you noticed a very important thing that I, for some reason, did not notice. Come here. We need to wrap up and let people ask questions before we have an entire second panel dissecting colonialism in Bridgerton and the Crown, which would be actually class. However, we have a few minutes, and I think we can take like a few seconds of break and see if any of you have any questions for Rosaleen. Anyone at all?
There is sleep.
I don't think there is sleep after things you brought up.
I got the graveyard shift.
It's not the graveyard shift, it's lunchtime. Maybe that's why. But yes, does anyone have a question? And I heard mutterings. Are you all very satisfied with everything already? I also can't see you very well, so wave. There we go. Wave. We have roving mics that will come over to you, so you don't have to strain yourself. Loud people need even better microphones. Go on.
Hello. I am halfway through your book, Rosaleen, and I have to say, I've related to a lot of it. I am half Romani and half Romanian, and I grew up sort of non-traditional, but at the same time with a lot of tradition infused, so very confused altogether. And I really related to that part where you talk about how tradition can be free in the point where you weren't in the same kind of rearing children and brought up for marriage and just that. And I carved freedom for myself in that way, but at the same time I did feel like I was letting down the tradition in my family. And on that note, I also want to say that I loved how non-ornate the style of the writing was, but at the same time very tender, and even though painful at points, a lot of points, you don't sit in it, there's no wallowing, but it does linger. And I love it, and I can't wait to finish it, and I really can't wait to see more of your stuff. And I have no questions. Just wanted to say that.
Rosaleen, go on.
Yeah, I think, thank you. I think that positioning of failing to live up to your cultural expectations and responsibilities, that's a woman's thing. Men don't give that a second thought. And, you know, I don't think it ever really goes away. But I think at some stage, at the right moment, or the right moments, you drop it. And always remember, it's about context. Remember about Bridgerton, it's about context.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Oh. Anyone else? Oh, I see someone over there has a question.
Hiya. It's not really a question, it's just really an observation. Rosaleen, around the whole, like, not meeting up with traditional cultural expectations, as a traveller woman who isn't traditionally culturally meeting expectations either, there's things like activism and then there's role models, and I think it's brilliant to see the work that you do, and it's brilliant to see that you're not meeting those expectations, but you're so well known within our community as well, and in a positive way. So I just wanted to say that, because being different within the community, as it is in not meeting those cultural expectations, that needs to become the norm. And I think that you're great with that. So I just wanted to say that.
I also thank you, but I also feel role models are very dangerous. I'm not a role model. I don't want to be. I never have been. I think that in itself, we are our own role models. We need to look internally, not externally.
Very wise words, Rosaleen. Anyone else? Maybe we'll take one last question, one or two. Oh, you're all very well behaved. Considering what you've seen on stage today, I'm surprised. Any more at all? Going once? Oh, I see one. Dead center. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, sorry, half slides. Yes, there we go.
Hello. Do you think, since you started writing up until now, do you think there was any self-censorship that you had to do just to get your plays on the stage or yourself published, just because there's so much that the general public doesn't want to hear from disabled people, just kind of like, oh no, you can't be that angry, you can't be this certain emotion or that, or do you think it's more that you have to push yourself, you have to fight tooth and nail just to get that on the page?
I know that voice. You're one of my friends. Your voice is very familiar. No, I think you have to be responsible to your own heart. And if you say things or do things that will compromise you or your career, it's not worth it. I don't censor myself, but I do have a responsibility to my own heart and then to my audience. But I will always find a way of saying what I want to say.
And you do it so well, and we are so very fortunate that we get to see you share that with all of us through your books, through your plays, through just existing and chatting with us. So I think that's a very good note to end on. Thank you so much, Kurt, for having us. Take over your stage. Thank you, all of you. And thank you, Rosaleen. Enjoy the rest of the festival.